Hello, good morning, and welcome to SkaredCast. I'm Skar, your grateful host. Yeah, also tired, but welcome one and all to the weekly show. This is season 3, episode 20 of the weekly show. It's a show I regularly do for patrons every week or so, unless I'm traveling for an event or whatnot, where patrons get to ask questions, submit army lists for mainly Warhammer 40,000, and I get to answer questions, talk, chats, like a little talk show, as well as a little bit of a pick my brain sort of idea, essentially. But every once in a while, I put it public. I make the videos public for all of you to enjoy as well here on the greater internet. So, of course, if you like the channel, make sure you leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and or share this with someone who you think might find this interesting. And with like that, we can get started with the weekly show. Now, this weekend, let's start with the first thing, which I haven't actually. It's one of those things where if I haven't taken my meds, I notice instantly I do have ADHD, so I have meds for that, which is something that I tend to have like in my back pocket just in case, because then I'll be like, why does my brain feel so frazzled? Just because of that. So, ever since I've started managing my attention deficit disorder, it's actually been quite good. I feel a lot more in control of my day, and I don't feel as like hectic and crazy brained, which does feel good when I'm trying to get stuff done from like a health and wellness sort of perspective as well. Where is this? But thank you everybody for coming to hang out. I really appreciate it. And hello everybody in chat. Double Rainbow Gaming. Hola, Darkjad, Drazar, good morning. Excited for Wednesday. I know it's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to our chat as well on Wednesday. I am going to be, I believe by the time our chat happens on Wednesday, I'll be in Nova Scotia. No, Tuesday. Wednesday is the 12th. Never mind. I leave on Thursday. Going to Nova Scotia on Thursday in the morning. It's March break, so I'm taking my kiddo all the way to Nova Scotia. We're going to hang out with his cousins and his aunt and uncle and stuff. So it's going to be fun. Hello, Jetos, probably Coco, Tom the Toad, Fanatical ADM. Hello. And then later today, I'm going to be on the War Mistresses Twitch page. We're going to be playing basically a TTS game live over there, and that starts in a little bit. Was it 12 o'clock? So I've got, 2 hours here before that gets started? No, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So we're all set, which is great, which means I can get to do this. I'm not in a super rush to get this done. Hello, Dorian. We want points drops, not increases. Daniel Alfonso. Hi, Don Scary. Feliz lunes. Feliz lunes, Daniel. ¿Cómo estás? Ojalá estás bien. No more Void Raven changes, please. Then, if there's no more Void Raven changes, I have failed in my 300-point crusade to try and make it super expensive as well. Sub-Zero. Got a few minutes before my next client. Oh, welcome, Sub-Zero. They're supposedly giving Drukhari a buff. Here's hoping. Need it. Yeah, there's there's a imminent change, of course. One thing that I do not do on this channel is peddle in rumors, if that makes sense. I like seeing when I have everything in front of me, and then I can make educated discussions on things that are actually true instead of on rumors and hearsay, basically. So then I can make an actual decision on things as well. Imagine how powerful Skari would become if Drukhari gets a buff. What are you pivoting? What are you pivoting to, Gamer Geek? What are you pivoting to when the bomber goes up? I don't know. We'll find out. Games.com just hands Skari #1 ITC spot with buffs. That's true. Oh no, I'm taking everyone with a with a bit of salt. Yes. Hey, Troy, what's going on? Thanks again for a great Barrie Bash. No problem. Yeah, this weekend I ran the Barrie Bash. It's the 11th year that I've run this tournament. It's a Warhammer 40,000 tournament that I run in Barrie, Ontario, Canada. It's a pretty fancy event, I'd like to say, where we have, you know, it's at a golf course, like a fancy golf course, and I've been doing it for 11 years. I've been doing it at the golf course for what, 5 or 6 times, so half a decade. They're great there, and you know, I found like the perfect formula, which is keep it a decent size, don't make it too big, make sure the terrain is good. I think what I'm gonna try and do is just essentially reinvest into it every year and make it more and more of like a fancy affair. Basically, where you come, you hang out. There's golden tickets up for grabs, of course, for like the world like series or the world championships of Warhammer, and I just want to make it better. This is the first time that I included a dinner service in the ticket price. So like you bought your ticket and it came with lunch on both days and dinner on the Saturday night. So you didn't have to go anywhere for dinner. It was like just catered at the location. And then we had a Mario Kart tournament. Like we got some video game, like we had a big screen and we hooked up the switches and we played Mario Kart, which was really fun. And so people were there till like 10:30 at night just hanging out. And it was a really fun social time after the tournament. But after 4 rounds in the day, like folks were tired. Like really tired, which is fun. Hello, Tech Priest Dicky, what's going on? Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming to hang out. Drazar, Tac Brigade getting gutted. Yeah, we'll see. Darkja, wish Drukari gets point buffs. Alex, first time seeing your live stream. Thanks for being a great role model for the community. Yeah, you're very welcome. I'm not perfect, but you know, I try to be the best person that I can day to day. Drazar, I think they drop MFMs on Wednesday. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. The foldable terrain was fantastic. All the tables look great. Yeah, nice themed terrain that matched the mats that they were on, right? So that was really cool. Black Tie Warhammer, almost. You know, there's a couple of things. Tech Priest Dicky, what's going on, Dicky? Nice to see you. Sindri, hello. Julian, hello. Jackal, sounds sick. Yeah, Colin. Tried the bomber in a home game, finished off a Riptide, killed 2 crisis suits before being shot off the board. Would have been worth to spend CP to give it the 4 pinball? Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's dive in to the show. So for anybody who's brand new who hasn't watched one of these shows before, this is the weekly show. So this is a show I tend to do every week for patrons and members. Every once in a while, once a month, once every 2 months, I open the floodgates and let everybody who's not a member or patron find out what they're missing, because I want you to be very jealous of my denizen community and all the cool stuff that they get to participate in. So throughout the week, we put a little thread up on the Discord where you get to post questions. Any type of question you'd like my thoughts on, and then we go through all the questions, and then we have a section called the List Crunch, where if you're a Scourge, Trueborn, or Incubi level Patreon, I get to read an army list that you've put together and give you my thoughts. You know, hopefully it helps you develop a concept or just gets my ideas of about 30 years worth of Warhammer experience and building lists and playing games. I can then just give you some advice if it's something that you would find useful. Yeah, and then I share it. And that's it. It's pretty straightforward. You know, of course, if you like it, thanks for hanging out. And a huge shout out to the channel Patreons, the Denizen community, without whom I couldn't do what I do. So big shout out to all of you for giving a crap and enjoying the content and allowing me to do what I do every single week and every day. Would not be possible without all of you. Okay, so let's dive in. Pirate Panda, what's going on, buddy? Calls want to stop in for 2 seconds. Thank you very much. Nice to see you. I'll see you on our coaching call later as well. Tom the Toad has a great question. Riveting question. See what I did there, Tom the Toad? I don't know if toads rivet, do they? I don't know. Do you coach mainly Drukari or general gameplay? I coach for every single faction. I've played the game long enough that I know every faction, and I know how to play good Warhammer. So, my coaching is not a lesson plan. There are a few specific lessons that I go through, but I'm more of a personal trainer than a coach. So, like, I'm a personal trainer in the sense that you come to me and go, this is what I want to achieve. And with the experience that I've had over the many years, go, these are the reps you need to do, the machines you have to spend, the diet you need to eat to get to that goal. If you were looking at it from that sort of like analogy, metaphor style thing or whatever. Yeah, I've taught folks how to play Warhammer from a gameplay perspective or a mentality perspective or even a specific faction perspective as well. So it really does vary on the person. And that's the key, is it's a very personalized experience because every single person is different. And it's not just like this is the lesson plan and you have to do everything in order or whatever. That, it's more about if you're a brand new player and you want to learn stuff, I cater to that. If you're a more experienced player and you're more into theory and brainstorming and thinking outside the box and stuff like that, then that shifts onto that sort of like style as well. But Tom the Toad, I hope that answers your question. And yes, I've done anything from Drukhari all the way to Chaos Knights and Demons and whatever it is that my clients play. Oh, nearly 30 years, says Sindri. You old man, you. Yeah, I'm 37. 37 now. I've been playing for like, what, 20, 22, 27, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 5. 27 years? Yeah, it's been a long time. I've been playing for a long freaking time. Like almost 30 years. Shane, the Canadian goat. Yep. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Welcome, Julian Page, to the Denizen member page. Nice. Thank you so much for your support here on YouTube. Think outside of the metal boxes. Exactly. Hello, Luke Harris. What is going on? Well, without further ado, that's kind of what happened to me. I ran an event this weekend, which was really fun. Hobby-wise, what am I working on? I'm working on a Blood Bowl team. Actually, I joined the Blood Bowl League, and I've also I built a Dark Elf team, and I'm in the process of getting it painted. So I think that'll be my project. I have so much Dark Eldar stuff painted anyway. I don't really need to paint more Dark Eldar Drukhari. So it's like I've got a whole box of unpainted Drukhari that I should paint, but I like changing it up every once in a while, trying some different colors and stuff like that. The Dark Elf bits are 6. Yes, actually, there's one Dark Elf bit for anybody who's a collector from that Dark Elf team, which is this bit right here. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't. It's tiny, really, really small. It is a hand holding a heart, like literally a heart, and and I want to put that on an Archon. So I'm keeping this little hand because it's literally got a heart, and I want to put it on an Archon, so he's like holding something's heart in his hand. It's going to be great. And then that'll be some cool piece of gear or whatever. But diving into the Patreon Q&A, let's dive in. I'll get to your question, Emerald, in a second. So Drazar asks, do you think a foot-slogging blob of witches with Lilith is worth trying, or should I just move points around to buy them a transport? Buy them a transport. You don't... So have something that you could put into the transport if you don't want to put Lilith into transport. So having the option of running them as a blob on foot is not a bad idea in some cases. However, most of the time you want to give them a transport. Depending, of course, on the detachment that you're running for Drukhari. However, like, if I'm playing against, like, an army that's very fighty, aggressive, fast, like Hormagaunts or something like that, like Tyranizican or a bunch of Gene Stealers that want to, like, get in my face really early, and I didn't, that sort of thing, then I didn't win the roll-off for attack or defender or whatnot, or whatever it is. Sometimes you can deploy Lilith on foot with a big brick to sort of like threaten a fight first heroic intervention, right? And that sort of thing comes really in handy in certain matchups, but it can be very risky because bolt pistols kill witches, right? So anything will just kill a witch if they're in the open, especially in shooting. So if they're a big blob on foot, they're very vulnerable. And could die way too fast. So you have to be careful with that sort of stuff. But so normally I'd try and find them a transport, if at all possible. Calum says, quick question, as you are Black Templar. Yes, I play Black Templars. What's your favorite detachment to play with them? Righteous Crusaders. That 6-up Feel No Pain and OC5 and Leadership 5 across the board is fantastic. And Tannhauser's Bones is one of my favorite enhancements. Like a big 20 brick of Crusaders, Primaris Crusaders, with a 5-up Feel No Pain is one of the toughest units in the game to get rid of. It is just wildly strong. So, yeah, it is very good. I also love your content. You're my favorite 40k player and role model. Hey, well, thank you very much, Caleb. Really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Zinth, good morning. Scarring chat. Good morning, Zinth. Drazar. Ironically, that's what I ended up doing. I moved points to get them a Venom and added a Kronos. See, that's the spirit, Drazar. You know what you're doing. You know what you want to try and do. That's exciting. Moving on. Phil asks, returning from Manchester. I did. I just got back from Manchester GT. It's been a wild ride. I got back on Monday. Literally had like a day. Not even. I was like working right after. And then I had to get ready for running this event. And then today I've got work as well and stuff. So I haven't stopped. I'm going to Nova Scotia, of course, this week. So I hope that I get a few days to just like chill and relax and do nothing. I'm very looking forward to that before my brain implodes. In your opinion, what's the biggest difference playing competitively in the UK versus North America? Ooh, that's a great question, Phil. So I think there's a lot of elements to competitive 40k or competitive like tabletop gaming in general. I think one of the biggest things I noticed is even though the event was massive, it felt very community driven. So even though it was like almost 400 players, like a massive, massive event, right? Everybody was there with their friends. And that's what I really noticed is the level of like community was awesome. Like everybody was there with their game club, and each game club had their own shirts, and they were just there with their friends to hang out for the weekend, drink, eat food, play games, and they were just being social. And that's not something that I see in North America as much. Like, yes, you have like a club that you wear your club shirt sometimes or whatever. But when you go to like events, it's not like your whole club goes to like the events together. Sometimes at big events, you go to a team event and you have like a team like club or whatever. But like when I was there, like it's like the 10 or 15 or however many people, like those clubs were just they were like all together, just hanging out. And like when you go to an event in the North America, unless you go with like somebody you know, like the distances are really far apart, so not everybody can go to every event. But it was like I just don't know, it just felt different and it felt more communal, right? Whereas in North America, it can feel like a little bit isolated, right? Where you go, yes, you might go with people you know and friends that you've met, and it's fun and social, but it didn't have the same sort of like spice of life in a lot of ways. As for play styles, it was about the same, and the terrain was fine. UKTC terrain is fine. It is usable. It changed the game a little bit, but it wasn't anything too crazy. Yeah, there was some lines and stuff, but some GW terrains have crazy lines across the entire table as well. So, it wasn't a big deal in terms of that. Didn't change it too much. But I hope that answers your question, Phil. Drazar, have a good day at work. Thanks a lot for popping in as well. Hectic Hobbyist says, mainly an AOS player, but love watching you play. Thank you very much. You got good energy for competitive player. I appreciate that. I do enjoy the game in general, not just winning competitively, right? Like it's all about the process and having fun and making friends, in my opinion. Moving on, question from Beebus. Fun question. What did you eat in the UK after your games? Food-wise, did your hosts get a decent curry? Yes, we had we did eat. So at the Manchester GT, they had like 4 or 5 food carts right outside the venue, like food trucks. and you could go, and they had like a pizza truck, and they had like a fries and burger truck. They had a Thai truck, and then there was another one. I think it was my vegan or vegetarian stand or something. The I had Thai the first day, a Thai curry, which was delicious, and then I had just like a barbecue chicken pizza the second day. But yeah, during like we did go and get like burgers, and we did get a good butter chicken like curry on the last night we were there as well, which was very delicious as well. Yeah, it's good food. We just ate. We made sure we ate. Uh, and the host, we had an Airbnb. I got to stay with, a bunch of the Scots like Innes and crew, and huge shout out to Dan from the Red Dragon who's sponsoring me for the season. Got that all set up and stuff, which is really awesome. And we just stayed. We had an Airbnb. It was very comfortable, and it was a great, great, great place, great location as well. 40K question from Beebus. I had my first tournament weekend before last. Took much of your advice from previous weekly questions and even managed to win a game against Deathwatch. That's awesome. Deathwatch is not an easy matchup. Happy days for the Dark Kin. The Bomber was everybody's favorite and least favorite model. I agree. And it was really nice. Everyone there reacted to having a Dark Eldar player there. There was a lot of warm welcome appreciation for a rare faction. Yeah, it does feel good. You're like, diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? I've watched some of your competitive videos with a new eye since, and my question is, what it was actually about a specific move you did in a recent tournament video at GSC at XPlanet. You threw your Scourge forward into almost inevitable death in melee really early on. It seemed very intentional. What led to that maneuver in your thought process? Thank you. Yes, so what I did is my opponent, we played, and this is live on stream, so you can watch it on the X Planet Live stream. Last round of the RTT. So my opponent went first on Terraform. Was it Terraform? I think it was Terraform, and it's a sweeping engagement. So basically, UKTC mission 1, right? Or round 1 mission. And he kind of like moved up and had a truck or a Goliath rock grinder in a side with dudes inside, like 5 hybrids, or 5 not hybrids, just acolytes. And so the way that I was set up, then he basically blocked my corner with bikes. So I wasn't really able to get onto that objective. And so what happened is I need to stop my opponent from scoring primary. If that doesn't happen, then the game gets away from me very, very quickly. The only thing I really had that could get close were the Scourge. And because he had so much indirect, he had like a lot of indirect. He had like 3 mortar little buggies and like the 3 saboteurs with indirect. Like my Scourge were pretty much going to die regardless. The thing is, I needed to kill that truck, but once the truck was going to go down, I knew that he could disembark behind the building onto the objective, which means that if I don't put something either onto the objective or try kill them, then then he's going to get primary points, and that's the thing that I wanted to avoid. I wanted to avoid him having primary. So the only thing that I had that was fast enough to either contest the objective or to make sure that I could kill the things that he then dumped out on the objective once I killed that truck with the Scourge. So the Scourge had to move up. I had to kill the truck. He did what I thought he would, which is disembark folks onto the objective. And then I'm going to charge the Scourge into the 5 little acolytes, right? 5 acolytes, which don't really have armor. And I was like, ooh, pain token, reroll hits, wounds. Like I should be able to do some damage because Scourge have like 2 attacks each. They're actually really good into like squishy little units in combat with a pain token. And then I think I bounced and then they all died, which, it was like a gamble because I just needed to stop him from scoring primary, which then the gamble didn't pay off. But I feel it was the right choice to make because my Scourge were going to be dead next turn anyway, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that was the thought process behind that. And I hope that gives you some food for thought as well, Beebus. Sim Conti, Team Hive Mind says, hi, Scary, great to see you here. Main issue I do see with UKTC is the open areas on the board. There's no safe space coming from Strategic Reserve. Yeah, that's true. Like, rapid ingressing is very powerful, but, it is what it is. Sometimes I think it encourages the use of units like loan ops or things that could loan up. which is nice. It's nice to have sort of like areas of the board that are open, that aren't always safe spaces. So there's a nice little change of pace. I could see how playing it over and over again might get a little annoyed, but for my first time there, it was fine. Hey, cool Tomo says, new follower here. Thank you for the Sky Splinter Court idea. You're very welcome. It had me try Drukhari at last, and I was shockingly good with them. Look forward to seeing more of your stuff and advice. Yeah, that court in and out of a raider is just absolute money. That thing is just so good. Do you feel Caleb says, do you feel the UK has a different meta? It's about the same. What about playstyle? It's maybe a little bit more measured. Not as YOLO, but there was plenty of YOLO. Plenty of YOLO. Now, I've already said their playstyle is different. Is that your experience too? I think in general, it's about WTC playstyle is different. So, like, if you're playing at a team style event, there are two reasons why I think playstyle is a little different. Number one, you have to win big if you want to get anywhere in UKTC. So you have to like crush your opponents, like get 100 points, right? Like if not, you miss out on top cut. A little bit less now since they changed a couple of the things, which is awesome. I like that. Good change. So it's like everybody who's top, gets to play extra games or whatever, which is nice. Yeah, so that sort of thing. I turned up to Manchester alone. The rest of my team lived down south, but there still ended up being loads of people I knew from Leeds to speak to. It's a pretty good community in the UK. Mika, yeah, 100%. Communities, you go to big events, having that community is just so important. Yeah, like I think that's one of the basic reasons I love going to events, and one of the reasons like when I'm running my event, I'm like, hey, there's food, there's lunch, there's dinner. It's all there so you can socialize. There's breaks between rounds. It's not too big of an event, so you can actually see people who that sort of stuff, right? And I think it's very important to do that as a community. Yeah, huge shout out to all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you haven't already. It is a public video, so it helps the video get noticed. Leave a comment, that sort of stuff. Share it as we get to the list crunch segment. Charlie Sparrow says, hello, Scary. Hello, Charlie Sparrow. I am preparing for my first tournament in July, where I will take my Dragon Balls themed Drukhari. Fancy. I love it. And I'm not going to win, but to learn and make friends. Nice. That's a good, especially if you go to your first tournament, like zero expectations is fantastic. Go finish all your games, play all your games, and just soak it in, right? Enjoy the process. Any tips for preparing for a tournament? I think one of the most important things to remember for a tournament is don't take anything too personally, like, because people there have a lot of experience and they'll know like the minutia of like, this is where I can stand in order to do this or get line of sight this way or whatever. So like you're going to get caught out by little things like that. So don't take it personally, learn from it and then apply it in your next games. Number one. Number two is be physically prepared for your tournament. So what I mean by that is have all the tools that you require: dice, measuring tape, water bottle. Something I had was a little trolley, right? It was a 3-tiered trolley that I pushed around that had all my stuff on it, and it's it's super useful. Here in Canada and the US, we use them a lot. Like everybody has a little trolley where you put your army on there, and then the bottom is like you've got like bag or water or snacks or whatever, and you can just walk your trolley around from table to table. And like that, if there's no space on the sides of your tables, like you just have a little trolley where all your stuff is. But if there's not enough room at your event because they've crammed you all into like this tiny little space, then that could be a little bit of a nuisance. Water, extra measuring tape, dice, Advil or Tylenol, right? Something to like make you feel a little better if you're having a headache or whatnot. Stay hydrated. So it's about creating sort of like habits that will make the physical aspect easier and to just be prepared in case like just be prepared. Like be prepared to be up on your feet for 12 hours in a day, right? Like it is make sure you're sitting down. Like listen to your body. The adrenaline is so high that sometimes you finish the day and you're like, "Oh man, my back hurts. I should have sat down once or twice." You know? Some people use a yoga mat. They roll a yoga mat on their side of the table so they can stand on like a yoga mat and reduce fatigue on knees or joints. So there's things you can do to make it more comfortable for yourself, right? But the biggest thing would be have all your tools, dice, counters, measuring tapes, that sort of thing. Have water, have Advil, have a little laser pointer if you need one. Just be prepared for it and then enjoy it. Like every once in a while, like even at Manchester, when I was there, like a couple of times throughout the event, like I just sort of like stepped out of the game, like mentally, because when you're in the game, you're in a bubble. But like stepping out of the game and just looking around the hole and just soaking it in. I love doing that. Like when I'm there, I'm like, like, and then you just hear the murmur, right? Like everybody chanting at the same time. And it's like the vibes, and it just feels amazing to just see everybody just like rolling dice, playing games, and just having a good time. And it's just like that energy is just great. It just really feed off that. It's awesome. I wear memory foam slippers. It really helped on concrete laminate floor. Nice. Yeah, just have something. Comfortable footwear is very important as well. So, um, so that's number one question. Number two, do you remember your first tournament? I do. I do. I was, 12 years old? I played 3 rounds with my Black Templars without the Black Templar Armageddon Codex because I didn't know that they had their own like supplement codex. I just had this Codex Space Marines. So it was like a Space Marine book, and they were Black Templars. But then at that event, I ran into a guy that played Black Templars, and he's like, "This is actually a supplement. You've got like special rules." And I was like, "Ooh, an Empress Champion, and this, and a Land Raider Crusader." And so then from then on, I started playing with the supplement, which is really cool. I played against Tyranids, I played against Necrons, and I played against Space Wolves, I believe. Yeah, those are the 3 armies that I played against. I won 2 of those games against Space Wolves and Tyranids, and then I lost into Necrons, which, by the way, was an awful game. That is the first time I left, like at my first event ever. I was 12 or 13, and I was so pissed because I felt like the guy that I played was just being an absolute asshole, like a total jerk, and he like just a bully, right? Because he really wanted to win the event or whatever, and because I was like, I'm pretty sure I know these rules, but he was like gaslighting the hell out of me, being like, no, that's not how this rule works and that rule. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I know these rules. And then I went home and I like reread the rules, and I was like, I was right the whole time. What a jerk, right? And I was like so angry. I was very angry. Um, and I was like, I never want to play Warhammer ever again. But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna know everyone's rules better than they do, and I'm never gonna have that happen to me again. So I got like really like headstrong, and I was like, I'm just gonna know everything better, and no one's ever gonna take me for a spin ever again. And so then I just learned the rules, and I became like the rules guy because I just knew all the rules when I was like 13. Oh yeah, Caleb. Yeah, the Metal Empress champion. Yeah, I had the 2. I got the one with the big sword up this way, and I've got the dude with the big um, um, compensating sword. So, also in terms of deployment, as you look at the mission and table layout ahead of the tournament, do you always have a prepared deployment for each round, or you're just on the fly? I always like I have general areas of the battlefield where I like to deploy certain things, just depending. The key is to adjust on the fly. Like if you have like if it's about that, like deployment is something that is a game in a game. It's back and forth, and putting stuff down and seeing where your opponent go. And then once your opponent gives you information, then you can kind of go for it. Like normally I'd put like my mandrakes in front of the world eaters to stop them from scouting into my face. But if I like keep my mandrakes back and wait, and he puts like Lord Invocatus on like an opposite side of the board to scout in a different direction, I don't need to put my mandrakes down there if it doesn't stop them from like if it doesn't do anything other than have them die, right? Like if they put Invocadas right up front and everything's like on the line and they're ready to rush at me, I'm like, okay, then the Mandrakes go in front. But like, I'm going to be adjusting based on that information. If my opponent has a tank that can shoot, right, and it's a big open table, I'm going to wait to put down my vehicles or whatever, and then they put down their big killy tank, and then they go, okay, now I can see where that tank can go. Move, like, where can it move? What lines of sight can it have? And all of a sudden, if you do that, then the table layout changes because now they didn't put it on this side, which then means that angle is covered because they can't get to there. So now I can deploy something in what was a big open space because nothing else can see it. So it's about going back and forth and just adjusting on the fly. But that is a fantastic series of questions, Charlie Sparrow. Thank you very much. Then we have Bamboon Brains. Says, good morning, Scary. I've been still jamming Reaper's Wager and enjoying an MSU approach. Nice, I'll see your list in a second, but I'm not sure if I've leaned too far into MSU. How do you approach the balance of concept versus not losing sight of what makes an effective list? That's a great question. I think at the end of the day, you have to look at points versus, like, do you have enough stuff to kill things you need to kill, right? So, like, if you need to focus on, like, a specific enemy unit, does your MSU approach give you enough punch to, like, kill it? Because it is death by 1,000 cuts. You have to, like, focus each cut, right? You have to focus on, like, little unit, little unit, little unit, little unit, little unit, right? And slowly chip away. Now, there are, especially against Eldar, though, that doesn't work as well because they can be like, okay, little unit fights, and now I'm going to hide behind this wall, So it is a balance. I think one of the most important things to do is to kind of understand what your concept is. So, like, for example, with my Dark Eldar, my Sky Splinter, I've got, like, 2 hammer units, really, Lilith and the Court. But as soon as they're dead, they're kind of dead, right? So I have to keep, the whole game is keeping them alive to be able to do stuff multiple turns in a row. Important. However, if you had, like, Lilith, the Court, Incubi, right? Then you have, like, 3 different hammer units, and then you could, like, sacrifice 1 per turn. You'd be like, turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, right? And then sacrifice them. So it really just depends on, like, your play style. At the end of the day, it's about gathering the data of 30 to 40 games and looking at the data. Like, are you scoring primary or are you scoring lots of secondaries? If you're scoring lots of secondaries, then your MSU's working for that, right? Are you killing stuff and being able to position on the board? Do you feel like under pressure the whole time? Then switch it up a little bit. Maybe you need a big hammer unit to stop your opponent from just rushing at you. I mean, like, to make them think twice about just jumping right in front of the board, and losing some of their army, that sort of thing. No problem, Charlie Sparrow. Thanks for asking the questions. Appreciate it as well. Sub-Zero says, when do you make the decision between the Archon's 2++ and the 4+? Usually I don't start taking the 2++ until right at the end, if he fails one, he dies. Essentially. So I try and roll as few saves on the 2+ as possible. Essentially. Now that changes based on if my opponent has access to tank shock or things like that, where they just have mortal wounds and they'll just, like, try and mortal wound him to death. So it does vary. But I hope that answers your question somewhat, Bamboon Brains, as well. The Jackal, that's a trick I need to learn. Yes. Yeah, the trick, you mean don't take the 2-up save unless you absolutely have to? Because people will be like, I'm going to shoot bolt pistols at you. And I'm like, I'm just going to take it on his 4+ in cover, 3-up save. Oh, look, I rolled a 1. Good thing it wasn't the Shadow Field. Guar asks, hi, Scary. What do you think about the rumors about great buffs for our Drukhari in the next data slate? We'll see if they are true. I don't tend to, talk about rumors, really, because I just find it's a waste of energy until we see. Like, once it's there, I'll see it, and I'll discuss it when we have stuff in hand. Chainsaw says, I didn't know you could choose that. You can choose the save that you want to make with every save roll. It's not like you have to go, I have 10 saves, I need to make them all on my armor, right? You can take the best save. You can take the worst save. You don't, like, hello, Red Room, what's going on? So, for example, right, So the Archon's an extreme example where he's got a 2-up invul save, but he's got a 4-up armor. So like you can take it on his 4-up armor, which in cover is a 3-up, for example. So against like 1 damage AP 0 attacks, if he's in cover and he's by himself, I'll take it on his cover save. I'll be like, okay, cover, 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 and then wait till he has like 1 or 2 wounds left, and then go usually 1 wound left, and then I'm just going to start rolling 2-ups, and then as soon as he rolls a 1, he dies, right? Like that's just how it works. Yeah, Troy, for example. Hey, Red Drum, what's going on? So like Troy puts it in the chat, like. Exactly. If you shoot it, if my opponent shoots at my unit, and I want it to die to prevent a unit from charging, right? I will take the worst save, which sometimes means I don't get a save. So say, somebody was trying to charge. I had Cabalite Warriors on an objective, and they shoot a bunch of bolters at me. And they go, okay, bolter, 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 and they give me like 8 bolter saves on my 5 Cabalite Warriors. And say my Cabalite Warriors are in cover on an objective. That's 3-up saves, right? -1 for the AP or whatever. It's 4-up saves on the bolters. So looking at them, like statistically, you're going to kill 4 out of the 5. They'll leave 1, and then you're going to charge in and flip my objective or whatever. So instead, I'm going to choose to take my worst save, which is my 6-up invul, right? And I can just roll 6-ups. Oh, yeah. Okay, on 6-up invuls. Oh, look, you killed them all. And then remove them, preventing a charge, right? So that's usually one of the things that you can do. And you can do it save by save. It doesn't have to be all at the same time. You'd be like, I'm going to take 5 on 6-up invuls or whatever. Like you could, bounce around a little bit depending on when that works. It is a very cool tip, is when to kill your own models on purpose is an important skill to have. Strategic sewer slide. Wee. I'm gonna if I want to stop you from killing, if I want to stop you from charging, I'm gonna kill my own models. Absolutely, that's gonna happen. I've done it so often, so often. You can activate this strategy with go to ground. Yeah, to give everybody like a 6-up invul, for example. Yeah, and forces the worst save. Yeah. Hopes and wishes for this week's slate. We'll see. I'm hoping, like, I expect it to shake things up a little bit, which is all we can hope for. And I love that Games Workshop is keeping their hands on the pulse of the game and switching things often enough that it makes a difference. Yeah, it gives a 6+ and is free. I agreed. Moving on. Brimstone asks, hello, Mr. Scary. Hello, Brimstone. What was it like in the UK? Great Britain. I've always wanted to go, and the idea of going and playing 40k at the same time. Ooh, thank you for your time. I had a ton of fun, Brimstone. It was great. I highly recommend it. If you end up going to a UKTC event, it is worth the trip. It is worth the trip. Go, have fun, meet people. Just go to have a good time, right? Like, hey, Phil, what's going on? You know what I mean? Like, I just think it was worth it just for the experience, going, hanging out. Like, and it was a really chill schedule too. Like, it was just, even though it was a 400-person event, most people are not going to get to the top cut. So you just play your 5 games and then you go home. You know what I mean? Like, it was fine. Like, nobody gave a crap. They just went and had a good time. And it was like, the feel was like people not going there for ITC points, people going there to just play games and have fun. And it was great. Raven Bomber down to 200. I don't think that's going to happen. I doubt that would happen. The Bomber is incredibly good. Incredibly good. Okay, now we come to the rapid fire segment of List Crunch. So, for all of you who have just tuned into this, List Crunch is a segment of the show where Scourge, Trueborn, and Incubi level patrons get to submit an army list every single week when I do the show. And I get to read the list and give you a couple of thoughts. So I spend a couple of minutes to each list, nothing too crazy. And it's a chance for you to sort of like take my thoughts and maybe adjust your list or roll with it, or food for thought. It's designed not necessarily to make a list for you. It's designed to give you something to think about as you develop and build lists as we go, based on my experience and feedback. So we do have quite a few lists today, so we are going to sort of like rapid fire through them here. Phil says, I was thinking about the list I submitted, constantly feel like I need one more unit. Eldrad might be what I drop. CP is amazing, but I'm always missing that one more unit. out of all of the things, I think Eldrad is a nice to have, not a must have for sure. So it is something to take a look at. But speaking of which, your list is the first one on the list. Fail says updated the aspect list after facing 13 Chaos Knight War Dog lists with indirect and chain cannons. Yep, that is not easy for elves to deal with. Brutal. I need more armor, more damage versus chunky 3-wood infantry and vehicles. Yes. The thing about knights and chaos knights is, like, at least Eldar are really reliant right now on their fire dragons to kill, to kill things. And one of the things about knights and stuff is you got that invul save, and you can just pop that, rotate shields, you get a 4-up, and all of a sudden, like, your fire dragons could do like 0 damage, which I saw happen a few times this event when Eldar faced knights of some capacity, where they just like hit a wall and they just couldn't kill the little war dogs fast enough, and they just had enough units to just slowly take them down. One of the key things that, for example, my list, why it does okay into war dogs and to knights is because I have a lot of haywire, and haywire just helps me in that matchup exponentially. I think this list could play Warhost decently as well, but I'm torn. So, the biggest thing between Warhost and Aspect Host is Aspect Host does more consistent damage. Warhost gives you more tools to be tricksy and play the game. Sustained lethal strat and aspects has made some difference, but the fallback, shoot and charge, and Warhost has been clutch. So they're both good, but situational. Yeah, it's really the reroll ones so that your damage is consistent in Aspect Host. And then in Warhost, it is more tricksy, right? Then again, how often do you have a unit that survives long enough to have the fallback, shoot and charge? That's like the key. Thoughts? Can you find 30 points for enhancements to reroll ones to hit and wound on the Autarch? Which is a great enhancement to have. So I think Eldrad 100 points, yeah, sure. Azmoran, Autarch, Fugan, and we'll see if any of this stuff changes, right, with the data slate. Which so once that happens, you'll have a good idea, rejigging the list and stuff. But Eldrad does seem like one of the first things to drop for sure. He's not a must-have; he's a nice-to-have. Because here you're spending, like, every time I look at something like this in Eldar or any faction, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. You're spending almost 500 points on 4 models. Like, that's some spice. That's some spice right there. Like, even if you dropped Eldrad, got 30 points, and put the thing on the Autarch for the enhancement, right? Then you drop, and then that gives you what, 80 points left from Eldrad, which then gives you what, a ranger unit or something, like, or another unit of wait, you don't have any. Yeah, you have scorpions, or another unit of scorpions, for example, as an example, right? So, like, that alone could be the difference. Storm Guardians are good. I like them. Sticky Objectives are fantastic. A couple of Wave Serpents is pretty standard. This is 10 Dark Reapers. Good. Them with the Autarch is just like a staple. A couple of Dire Avengers with what's his face and a Falcon for the rerolls. Fire Dragons, 10 strong. Yep. With Fugan, it's just so good with Fugan. Howling Banshees. Now, you're not running Jane Czar, but she's really good. Shining Spears. Curious how you've been using them. Definitely something that I haven't seen very often. Shroud Runners I've seen a lot. Striking Scorpions I've seen a lot. One Warwalker for some scout and a good dark bright lances are great. Why the scatter laser on it? I'm curious. With Skyrunner, Warlock. That's another place where you can drop some points. I feel like that's 90 points there, which could be used for like something that's more killy. Warp Spiders. See, a second Warp Spider unit here. So if you drop Eldrad, put 30 points on the Autarch, right? Add in another unit of Scorpions, drop both Skyrunners, and put another unit of Warp Spiders in. Like, personally, I feel like that would be like more efficient in general, just as like an initial thought process. Oh, so you need to make sure that you get lots of rolls to hit. I understand now. Yeah, makes sense, especially since they don't have the rerolls. Yep, But other than that, Phil, like that's my basic initial thought. And you know, once we see the effect of the Minotaur and Field Manual, we can kind of dive in and do something a little bit more concrete with that as well. But hopefully that gives you some food for thought. Moving on, we've got Paul's list. It says, Happy List Cruncho Day, Scary and fellow denizens. Of course, List Crunchos, great part of a competitive diet. List Crunchos. My first list crunch in a while. That's right. I know, Paul. Nice to have you back, buddy. Learned a lot at the RTT on X Planet. Yeah, I really enjoyed Rodigus. Rodigus absorbing hundreds of attacks. Yeah, any of those big demons are just so hard to get rid of. The big monsters are a lot of fun. Decided to build a list around him. Nice. I got a real deal on Marketplace for a Bellacorn Bloodthirster. Awesome. So you're building some more demons. My idea with the list is to march Bellacorn and the Great Unclean One with a 4 Feel No Pain relic up the board. Shadow will allow me to bring in Rodigus. Then charge and cause havoc. Nice. I'll put Epidemus with Plague Bearers. Yep, extra command points. Beast and Urgle make amazing action monkeys. Beast and Urgle are just incredible for that. Demons seem to lack shooting, so I'm bringing 3 Chaos Knight War Dog Brigands. Excellent choice. Not sure about the loadout for the almost invincible Great Unclean One, but he has the Bell and Flail. The Bell resurrects Plague Bearers. Swap it for a Bile Sword, which is more damage. I would go for the Bile Sword, personally. Because if you pass your Battle Shock tests, you get Battle Line units back anyway, which is like your Plague Bearers. And usually you'll find that they're either alive or they're dead, right? So it's like, I think the Bile Sword for some damage would be very useful. Similarly, I could swap the Flail with a Bile. No, I'd go for the Flail. The Flail is great, like more shooting, especially once you get stuck into combat, like just being able to like potentially shoot stuff around it and do damage is good as well. Considering dropping the Bloodthirster for another Great Unclean One, and 95 points to spare. Is it that many points extra? I will tell you, the Bloodthirster is one of the easiest greater demons to kill, and whenever I run into demons that have a Bloodthirster, he's like my #1 target. If nothing else, this would be fun and obnoxious. Yeah, makes sense. So to answer your question, I think Flail. I kind of like the idea of the Bloodthirster for some punchy stuff. Bellacore, it has some good shooting. You know, if you do have him, he's good at like killing little things. The Brigands are a great choice. Make sure you, of course, you must have Nurglings in there, I would hope. So Bellacore, Bloodthirster, Epidemus, Great and Clean One, Rodigus. If anything, like, another thing to consider if you're just playing Demonic Incursion is like the Changeling, right? Just something that's like a lone-up character to like score points that you can bounce around or screen the backboard with, or the Blue Scribes, like stuff like that that's just annoying to get rid of. And your opponent can't, like, if you have a big wall of flesh, right, it's hard for them to get to you. And then maybe a couple of corn dogs for like actions, or screamers for like action secondaries and just flying fast and quickly and getting places, I think is super important when you're playing demons. Epidemus, Great and Clean One, Rodigus. Yep. Nurglings, Plague Bearers, Beast, War Dog. Yeah, so that's the only thing is I feel like you don't. So the Bloodthirster I would definitely get rid of. You know, Bellacore is fine. You could get rid of either or, I think. But having, you don't have Bloodletters in here yet. It's like I would add more things that score points, like 2 units of Corn Dogs, the Changeling, and like 2 units or 3 units of Screamers, like fast things that can go and just get in the way, move block, score a containment, right? Because the last thing you want to do is have to run your Great Unclean One over to an edge and like do containment with a Great Unclean One. It's like such an inefficient use of points, in my opinion. So just something to keep in mind in general. What did I just do? Right? Okay, moving on. Those are just food for thought. That's the kind of thing. Other than that, Brigands, awesome. I love those guys. They're great. Use them behind, like just use them effectively. Just chain cannon and havoc launcher and spear and melt a gun, right? Try not to get them isolated and destroyed as best you can. Zinth, I think it's lunchtime. Listening at work, had corn dogs and wonder what food had to do with the demons list. Corn dogs, that's right. The little corn hounds is really the name of what we're looking for here. Moving on, Chris Washington says, the wages on... Every time I read that, it's like, the wages on... down the street. The wages on... Anyway, moving on, Reaper's Wager. Archon, Webway Walker, Beastmaster, so Deep Strike. Hey, Rob Leclerc, what's going on? Beastmaster, Drazar, so we got Cabs, Venom, Court, Kronos, Grotesques, Incubi, Drakes, Reavers, Scourge, Talos, and then allied units, the Death Jester, Solitaire, Void Weaver. So a bunch of lone up. So for like UKTC, this would be quite good. When running Reaper's Wager, I feel like I would always want to run a Shadow Seer with the big brick. Like, that just seems so freaking good. Like, I love it. I love the concept of that. However, and the Solitaire just always makes me sad. I love the Solitaire as a concept. Every time I use a Solitaire, it just makes me so sad. I just wish it was better. I wish it was so much better. Talos are great. Couple of Scourge. You're running Dark Lances on them. I understand, because I hope that the Void Weavers have Haywire. Yep, so that's not bad. That's another place where you could find points. Is I don't think you need the Scourge, like the 2, maybe just 1 unit. Reavers, they're fine for quick and stuff. Mandrakes are good. Incubi, decent. Grotesques, yeah, sure. Double Chronos, good. Court. In Reaper's Wager, I will tell you right now, I do not rate the Court highly. Mainly because it's a lot of points. And in Reaper's Wager, it is a point and sacrifice unit. That is the only thing I don't like. Like, deep striking it is fine, right? It comes in, it can rapid ingress and threaten a heroic intervention. It comes down, sticky's an objective, whatever it does, sure. But it just makes me sad, because then it dies instantly, right after, boom, dead. And then you've just, like, it's just so many points invested in a unit. And I much prefer having, like, in this case, I would prefer to have the Archon with Arc Raider in the boat, like in one of the Venoms with 5 Cablite Warriors, to scout it onto an objective in No Man's Land to, like, sticky it if you go first, right? Like, that I feel would be better for you to play the game than a big court. And then you could use the extra points with the Court of the Archon plus a bit of points there extra to add something else, right? Which I think would be better off. Yeah. Resting Witchface says, what's your take on Skyweavers' Haywire Scourge for Wager? Haywire Scourge is still amazing. Skyweavers are fine, but Scourge Shoot and Scoot just means that they usually get more shots off before they die. Hengas says, I was glad to see you had a good time in sunny Manchester. Yeah, it was very sunny. You picked a good time. The weather has been great after months of gloom and rain. You just needed a couple of Canadians to show up to brighten up the place. That's right. It's all maple leaves and maple syrup. And everybody just leaves with a fantastic taste in the mouth. But other than that, I hope that gives you some food for thought for your list as well. Moving on. Jim. Playing with some ideas for Emperor's Children. There are things to explore in most of the detachments, but this is an initial concept for the transport-focused one. Yep, army name. The collective noun for rhinos is a crash. What? You're funny, Jim. You're funny. Rapid Evisceration. This is Emperor's Children. Definitely, of course, not an official release yet, technically, because it's just the box set, right? So we'll see what happens as well. So you got the Lucius, the Lord, 2 Lords Exultants, 2 Lord Cacophonists, 10 Infractors, 5 Tormentors, 3 Flawless Blades, 2 units of Noise Marines, a Chaos Spawn, a Land Raider, and a bunch of Rhinos. So I'm a big fan of the Rhinos, like crazy detachment, super fast, moving around. You know, you've got a decent amount of shooting, combat, scoring, and lots of characters. That's the thing is, over time, it'll really depend on whether or not the characters are worth it, right? Because there's so many points in characters here that like you could probably add in a bunch of extra stuff. I like the addition of the Land Raider though. I think that having last cannons is always a good idea. And then of course, you know, it is a elite army, but it's very tricksy, right? In and out, fights firsty stuff, like bouncing around, scoring points. So I feel like it'll play the game very well, right? Now, as we see potentially with the MFM and like updated point changes, potentially we'll see if this sort of like sticks around and goes with that. But overall, from a started perspective, with nothing in the meta to really show what this codex can do, it's all fair game right now. Go forth, Emperor's Children players, and create meta, right? Create something. Jim says it really is a crash. That's right. Just go create stuff. Make something happen. Put it out there in the universe, right? That's the thing is just if you want to make a meta army, make a meta army. Make it meta, right? Build an army, weird concept, and then prove that it can be meta. And then you make your own meta. That's just how it works. You know, it's not rocket science. It's just hard work. Moving on, but Jim, I hope that gives you food for thought. Just like play it, like just play it. With a new codex, there's little I can say in terms of like this is good and that's good and that's good and that's bad. Just play the game, play it and see how it feels, right? Because nobody knows yet, because it's literally brand new. Connie asks, or Connie's list. First try Inari list for the next tournament. Inari's finest. Yeah, Inari, by the way, very good. I saw it in action this weekend. Really annoying. Their army rule is just wildly good. Eldari Strike Force, Vizark, Incarn, Ivrain. Can't go wrong with that. Inari Kabalite Warriors. An Inari Venom. 2 units of 5 Dark Reapers. Big unit of Fire Dragons, unit of 2 units of Howling Banshees, some Shining Spears, a unit of Striking Scorpions, a Wool Walker, some Warp Spiders. Oh, big Wind Rider brick. Scatalasers, interesting. I'm curious about the Scatalaser choice. Curious. If you don't mind elaborating when you get a chance. A big brick of Inari Incubi, that's like a standard thing. Inari Reavers. So lots of like little units, MSU stuff bouncing around. You do have some Striking Scorpions, so you can create some space on the board. A couple of Scout units. You know, the Shining Spears are definitely interesting. Like, because you're running the big Incubi brick, I don't think you need the Shining Spears, but they are nice to have maybe as a countercharge unit. The couple of Banshee units are fine. Now, this, of course, depends a lot on how Games Workshop is potentially ruling like, can you go in transports with Inari stuff thing, right? Because I think the intent was they didn't want Dark Eldar units to go in Eldar transports. I think that was like the main intent of like the rule. But you know, the rule is written is like, oh, you can't like use them to go into Wave Serpent stuff, which is really silly in my opinion. So hopefully they kind of adjust that. I know a lot of places have ruled that you can, like I did this weekend. You know, that sort of thing as well. So, yeah, when 120 Death Core get blown off the table, it's lore-friendly failure. That's true. Victor says that's a good question. Technically, says Lou, if you go roll, Refrain leading Incubi can get into the Serpent. So it's definitely not intended. Yeah, it's just sloppy writing. Which, if you've been reading anything that has to do with Games Workshop at any point in time, makes sense. The only thing that I would say here is I feel like you need another 5 Fire Dragons. Like, that's the only thing is, like, you need something extra that can kill a transport at range. So having 2 or 3 units of 5 Fire Dragons, I think, is key in this detachment, because you need to crack open vehicles to get to the insides. And if you don't have, like, a decent amount of anti-tank, it's not going to happen. And that's, like, my only biggest thing is, like, and these Wind Riders don't really fit with, in my opinion. I'm like, I don't understand what you're trying to do here. If you were going for you know, like just to kill a bunch of infantry, sure, scatter lasers are really good for that. But in that case, I would try and fit in like a Warlock Skyrunner or something to give them ignore cover, right? Something like that, or even a unit of the little sniper dudes on jet bikes, right? The Outrider jet bikes, so that they can also like strip cover and stuff like that, right? So, Games Workshop, what's a technical language writer? Do they even exist? Exactly. So that's my thought process there. Just some food for thought. Moving on, Hodgie. Faction Xenos Drukari Reaper's Wager, very nice, with Arc Raider on the Archon. Neat. So this is for UKTC, smiley face. Okay, awesome. So with that context, we're moving on. So Archon with Arc Raider, a Beastmaster, 10 cabs, 5 racks, a court. See, that's, boom, instantly the court. I'm like, ah. It's like, I love the court, but every time I've used it in Sky Split, in Reaper's Wager, I'm sad because it dies instantly. And I don't like investing so many points on something that just instantly dies. 6 Grotesques. They're actually very good in Reapers. I actually really like a big brick of Grotesques in Reapers. 5 Drakes. Haywire Scourge. Helions. Neat. Chronos. Double Talos. Good. Ooh. Splinter Cannons. Is that like... I'm assuming, because of the fact that they have Macro Scalpel, and Twin Link Splinter Cannon, that this is not what you want your Talos to be equipped with. Because double Macro Scalpel doesn't do anything for Talos at all. Because you can only use one Macro Scalpel in combat. Like, having both of them literally does nothing for a Talos. Because they're not extra attacks, they don't get anything extra. They just, you're wasting a weapon option. So hopefully it's just you didn't click on the war gear sort of thing. A bomber, yep. Voidweaver, great. I think in UKTC, Voidweavers are going to be money, absolute money, especially on those 2 big open spaces on the corners, because you can deploy them 18-inch lone up, like it's tough to get to them. I would recommend Haywire over Prismatic Cannon, but that's just me. A Raider and a Venom. So overall, good concept. The only thing I would probably do is get rid of the court, because it makes me sad every time I use it. And I would try and put in, I don't know, I really like the big the big brick of Harlequins with the Shadow Seer is like quickly becoming one of my favorite units in Reaper's Wager. They're just so good with the Deep Strike. Very good with the Webway Walker. Twin Linked Macro Scalpel. I don't think it's twin linked. I think it's just double Macro Scalpel. You don't get it. It just doesn't do anything. They have no consistency in their writing. It's horrible. It is terrible. Absolutely terrible. But I hope that gives you food for thought, Hodgie. You know, I love the lone op style stuff. That's something that I wish I would have had when I went to UKTC. I think it's very powerful in that terrain format. Yeah. And then why did I not do that there? Perfect. Moving on. Bamboon Brains. Good morning, Scary. Good morning to you as well. It's happy Monday to everybody. I hope you're having a good week so far. I think I finally landed on a Reaper's Wager approach I've been vibing with. Now, I want to say something specific. Boom. This word is such an important word in this game. Vibing. If you vibe with your list, no matter what the internet pundits say, you will always, guarantee you, always have better results and have more fun playing with something that you vibe with. Happy, can you review Bridgehead list? Scary say something is terrible. Don't see it for years. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. Robert Leclerc says, preach! Is a Void Weaver and GW terrain not ideal? I think it works on GW terrain just as well, because there's like big open areas. Happy, I do have, so if you, to submit a list, just to answer your question, Happy, I do it for Scourge, Trueborn, and Incubi level Patreons. So if you want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below. I have a thread for the questions, the Q&A, and for the list crunch on the Discord. And I open it up every Monday or Tuesday. I open a new thread, and folks can post their lists. And I compile them all when I do the video during the week, basically. And then I copy-paste them. I go through them. Hey, Pilot Progression, what's going on? Thanks for coming in to say hi. MSU with the Corton Archon, plus the Void Raven Bomber as the heavier hitting, more expensive units. However, The court has felt really underwhelming in Reaper's Wager. You have come to the conclusion that I have come to the conclusion in your own way by testing it, right? Which is perfect. That puts me in an awkward spot of trying to fit an Archon in, but maybe the Vectora isn't worth shoehorning. The Vectora is fantastic, so you do want that Vectora handy. So having an Archon, handy, right? I think just having an Archon is a good idea. Just saw your battle report against Lanesh Demons. Love the rapid pace. I'm glad you enjoy the bat reps. I enjoy filming them as well. Unsure if I should drop the Webway Walker and just run with them on foot. If it's not worth doing the Venom split and keeping it as 10, or get the Archon with some Incubi. Also missing Lilith. May have also gone too far into MSU. All right, we're talking about this. Just in a bit of decision paralysis in this awkward spot. So I appreciate any input. Perfect. Let's break down. Vibing is, sorry, English not my mother tongue. Vibing means often play with. So Majory 40K. Vibing means feeling a connection with. So you are essentially like bro fisting like the list. Like you understand it. It feels good to play, right? So it like yeah, so hopefully that translation just works. Just watching your 4th edition mini wargaming video with Vect. Didn't realize that's where the name came from. Yeah, Vect. Well, look, Vect was the big model, but then Vect Aura or Vecting something came from I think 8th edition, where the Cabal of the Black Heart had a stratagem that was 0 CP that you basically rolled a dice on a 2+, you negated your opponent's stratagem. Like they'd use a stratagem and you'd go, I'm going to vect that stratagem. And on a 2+, that stratagem just didn't work. And if you rolled a 6 or something, they spent the command points and it didn't work as well, which was like brutal. And it was called Agents of Vect. Like Vect's machinations stopped them from using their stratagem. Holy crap. Ian, thank you so much for the 5 gifted memberships. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Make sure you go in and accept the membership. Troy, Michael, Don Husen, Esherik, and Sutinfeld. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you so much. That means a lot. 2 p.m. in the morning. 2 p.m. in the morning. Live Scary. Let's go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. That means a lot. So yeah, so that's where Vect comes from. The court, underwhelming, Reapers, yeah. So let's take a look at this list. Archon with Webway Walker plus the court, 10 Cabalites plus the Venom. So I think one of the biggest things is you switch Webway Walker with Arc Raider, right? So Arc Raider, and then you can drop the court. So that saves you a couple of points, right? And then you can go 5 Cabalites with Arc Raider court in the Venom, and then you can scout it up to sticky an objective if you go first and then like move away, and then it sort of does what Urien usually does and forces your opponent to come to that objective to pull it down and commit something to the midboard where you can pounce on them. So that's like an important part of the Arc Raider with the Archon. Another option, of course, is Archon Incubi Arc Raider to kind of put them in a position to then run up. Something I have been having a lot of fun with is 10 witches with a succubus with Arc Raider in a Raider. And it has proven to be a surprisingly effective unit. Not something I would have ever thought I would say about basic witches. But being able to give those witches lethal hits with a command point, Arc Raider to get up the board, they're like a secondary beast pack. They're actually like a good substitute for a beast pack in a lot of ways, to be honest. Is in Reaper's Wager, and I'm really, really liking that little combo. But I also have Lilith with another 5 witches that's like still my murder witches that go around in a Venom. So, yeah. So, I'll get to your question, Happy and Med, in a second. Urien, Beast Pack, Rax, Grotesque, Drake, Scourge, Hellions, Chronos, 2 Talos, Void Raven, and Skyweavers. An additional side note, I've been a fan of the 1x4 Skyweavers with the sustained hits. They reliably do 12 damage to vehicles. Thank you. Yeah. So if, like this here, especially if you have Dark Lance on the Scourge, the Skyweavers work great. The biggest thing is Skyweavers, once they commit to a tank, they will tend to attract a lot of attention to themselves. So if you can make sure that you're using terrain to sort of limit the access lines or damage, like lines of sight to them, so they can kind of try and kill more than one vehicle in a game, I think that's really useful. Of course, you're getting a better survivability than like Scourge, but Scourge can bounce in and out. In terms of this, I feel like if you drop the court, you know, I don't think you need 2 units of Scourge, to be honest. The Grotesques are fine. Like, you could probably find a place to, like, beef up the Grotesque unit to get some more punch, right? Maybe try find place to get a second Talos unit. The Skyweavers are good for flipping the wager in a pinch. You know, you are spending a lot of points on very squishy units, especially the Scourge. 260 points for 10 models. Like, Scourge are super... They're too expensive. 130 points for Scourge is too expensive, but they are still good. They're just too expensive for what they do because they die so fast, but they're very good. So it's like your opponents will be like, good riddance. But as a Dark Eldar player, like, I wish I had something else that could fit that gap, right? And I think your MSU is fine. But yes, you're right. You need like a more punchy unit. So maybe the court for Incubi would be better in another Venom, right? So you have like another Venom. And for that, maybe drop 1 unit of Scourge. And because if you're playing on UKTC, then you put in 5 more Mandrakes or a Death Jester, just to have some like loan up for those weird corners, like way in the back, essentially. Lilith and Witches in Wager do work. I killed 3 Wraithblades, 10 Banshees, Janesar, and 1 Heroic Intervention and Lethals. Yeah, Lethals with Lilith is just fantastic. Like, it's just good. Lethals makes Witches decent. Chainsaw says, this week's balance update more than a points update? I have no idea. We'll figure it out. I'll break it down when it comes out. And we'll talk about it with the information in front of us so that we're not peddling in rumors. And we can actually have the information and discuss it like civilized individuals. Next week's data slate. What can we expect? I have no idea. Do you think all the Oath will change again? I have no idea. We'll see. Happy says, what are your thoughts on current Slaanesh demons? They're mean, and I hope they get changed a little bit in the data slate. Danielle says, in 9th edition, you make the stratagem cost 1 plus CP for the entire game. Yes. So then Vect became sort of like synonymous with something that messes with stratagems. So that's Troy. That's kind of how we got to that point. Sorry, I was going to say that story, and then I totally just forgot about the story as I was in the middle of this. Moving on. Carl. Taking this to a GT next month. Chaos Space Marine Soulforge Warpack. Oh, by the way, shout out to the guy that came to the Barrie Bash this weekend with a Soulforge Warpack with 3 Khorne Lord skulls. It was his first event like in a long time, or it was his first event ever, and he just like, I'm going to take 3 models. That's it. 3 of these dudes with Vashtor, and I'm just see what happens. And he was having a fun time. How do you like them changed? We'll see. Well, like they're just too efficient. Some of those strats, it's just Chaos. The Slaanesh list is very silly, but you know what I mean. Like if we look at what they did with the Slaanesh demons in the Emperor's Children Codex, like those Slaanesh demons are okay. So hopefully they bring them in line, right? That would be good if they did. So we've got Cypher, Vashtor, Warpsmith. Yeah, Cultist Mob. Okay, Bikers. Good. Bikers, by the way, one of the best units in the Chaos. One of the best data sheets in the Chaos Codex. Cheap, effective, point scoring, fast. Awesome. Chaos Vindy, Forge Fiend, Lord of Skulls. The fact that you can move through walls, incredible. Mauler, Venom Crawler. The only thing is I don't think you need the double Mauler. I like the 1 Mauler just to be like a distraction card effects, but I think these 130 points could be spent somewhere else. You got the Nurglings to create some space on the board, which is great, but I would potentially take another Venom Crawler instead. even if it's like 10 points less or whatever. Yeah, like, and you've got, that's 10 points less, that gives you 50, that's 25 points, you know what I mean? So 25 points plus a cultist mob, that gives you 75 points. Like, could you use 75 points somewhere, add something else in, like another unit of bikers or something? Like, I feel like that's where I would find the points for it. Is like, because you have a Khorne Lord of Skulls, which should be super aggressive, getting your opponent's face and punching things, that sort of fills the gap of that second Mauler Fiend. So I don't think you need the 2 Maulers. I think you can use Khorne Lord of Skulls, which is shooting in combat, 1 Mauler Fiend to be like your 2 main sort of like combat distractions, and then have more shooting, right? Or more point scoring stuff, like Raptors. Raptors are very good. They're fast. Like, the bikes are very good. Fast. They can screen. They get to places. They press buttons. So you don't have to use your other units to do that, basically. All good, Scary. Definitely is worth it. Well, thanks. I really appreciate it. That means a lot. Ronan says, I'm so used to having my Sky Splinter Assault stratagems. I know, right? I love Venoms, but how can I make an effective use of Raiders and other detachments? So Raiders are more like just mobile taxis, basically. You just go, this is a big transport, I move here, I get out, and then go tank shock something. You know, that's kind of how it works. It does have a Dark Lance, so it's not like your opponent can just ignore it, because it could potentially do some damage. But it is something that, yeah, they're not like, Wind Reaper's Wager, I tend to run more Venoms than I do Raiders. But if I'm running that big Incubi brick or that big, like, Witch brick with the Succubus, yeah, I'll run it in a Raider, because it just feels right. Okay, moving on. Jim Chainsaw says, thanks for doing this, by the way. It really helps. You're very welcome, Chainsaw. I really like List Crunch. I love List Crunch, and I love the weekly show, and I love all the stuff that I do for the patrons. It's really funny, because whenever there's, like, a patron that, like, leaves, there's like a little there's a survey, and most patrons, they go, look, I had financial obligations, and I can't afford to, like, just give money to people. I'm like, good. Or they're cutting down, they're like, I have 10 different patrons, and I just needed to trim the fat or whatever, or subscription services or whatnot. But then every once in a while somebody would be like, Scary was not as active as I expected. I'm like, are you serious? You do know I do it. I constantly do stuff. Oh my gosh, that just, like, drives me out the wall. Sorry, pet peeve. But I do appreciate anybody's support for as long as they're able to. I just find it scratch heady when I'm like, I do this all the time. Anyway, this is funny. I love using Raiders for screens once I've done their work. They're fast, wide, and take up lanes very easy. Yeah, that's screens, move blocking with Raiders, using their length to be able to screen out 9 inches or 6 inches. Very, very good, as well as just stopping, people from getting in. Gamer Geek Jason, Scary's always cooking. I don't know when that man sleeps. I sleep. I went to bed actually relatively early. I like fell asleep on the couch. I was watching the new season of Invincible on Amazon, and I was like, and then I was like just falling asleep. Oh no, what did I do? No, I sat down with my kid and we watched Happy Gilmore. Oh man, I always love watching Adam Sandler be an idiot, and I was like watching it, and then I like woke up and the movie was done. I was like, oh man, I fell asleep on the couch. I rarely do that. I was exhausted. I can't believe how much you do. It's impressive. Why, thank you, Troy. I'm going to flex now. Legendary Mike. I'm one of those people that tries to do what I can. I think as much as I watch and listen, I can help. Yeah, like, and the thing is, people like, when I promote the patron, sure, I promote, like, memberships and stuff, because yes, like, to pay bills and stuff, it's only possible if folks support in that sense. But people don't have to pay to support what I do. The community is amazing. Asking questions, being in chat, liking the videos, sharing it with people, having conversations in your local store, directing people, like, that are trying to learn about a faction or something my way. Like that, it goes so way. And, like, just going to an event and having people come up to me, hey, thanks so much for what you do. Like, that drives me. It gives me, like, motivation. I freaking love the community. It's so cool. And I love that I can go anywhere in the world, and people who play Warhammer are just people who play Warhammer. We have something in common with people from all, like, political spectrums, religious affiliations, like anything at all, like countries. It's a uniting force in the world, even though it's grim, dark, and really mean. I would not want to live in the Warhammer universe. It's like everybody has a common interest, and it's freaking awesome. It feels fantastic because no matter where you go, you find people that like what you like. And you can literally walk into a store, not even really speak the same language, but literally have a pickup game on any store in any part of the planet. And it's literally going to be the board, terrain, make your list, roll some dice. And that's it. And you could literally play with anyone in the world. Which, by the way, is like on my bucket, not necessarily my bucket list, but one of my goals. Once my son is old enough and off to university or college or like, working or done his high school, basically, my goal is to travel around the world and play a game of Warhammer in as many countries as I can. And I want to blog the entire time. And I don't know if it'll take a year, 2 years, but that is like a main goal. I want to basically be a backpacking gamer and just travel the world and play games against as many different people as I can and just document the entire journey. This year, #1 in the ITC, right? That's my goal. Thank you to the Red Dragon for sponsoring me and basically helping me get to all these places. Um, Dan's a freaking gem, and he like it's awesome. I couldn't do it if he wasn't like sponsoring me for the season. And then after that, worldwide blogging. Sure, that'd be super fun. Give it up to Scary, definitely one of the, if not the best YouTubers out there for 40K. Well, that means a lot. I'm definitely not the biggest channel. Um, I'm very niche in a way. But if anything, from the beginning, I've tried to make the content that I make for intelligent conversation that has connections to the real world, basically. And it's about concepts. Like when I was doing the podcast, here I am like rambling, but when I did my SkaredCast podcast back in the day, a lot of the topics that I would talk about would be like the psychology of human psychology into Warhammer and like the real art of war concepts, right, from Sun Tzu's Art of War in Warhammer. And even nowadays, like I use like a lot of the things that I talk about is sometimes like using actual military tactics in Warhammer. Things like I try like have like super not only philosophical discussions but like real world like conversations because we're all humans, we're people, and it's a fantasy world, but it's really cool to sort of like try and relate actual things that we think about and that we do into the game of Warhammer. Anyway, um, you get to Australia, I'll find you a place to stay. Thank you, really appreciate that. I will, uh, yeah, thank you very much. That'd be awesome. Hello from Armenia. Nice. I'll be waiting for you when you start your Scary World Tour. Thank you so much. Awesome. That sounds amazing. I can't wait. I think I already kind of know what map I'd go. I'd probably start in like Nova Scotia or go from Ontario to Nova Scotia all the way to BC. Then I'd go from BC to like New Zealand, Australia, Eurasia, like all that, like Asia, and then move around, maybe probably do like then go into Africa, the Middle East, and then jump up into like Europe and do like Europe tour and stuff, then go from there. Then either do Europe first and then Africa, or like Africa then Europe, and then go across to like South America, and then go up all of the Americas back to Ontario, basically. That like in terms of how that would work, I feel like that would be kind of how I'd want to do it. Anyway, that's I've been thinking about it. Okay, moving on. Jim, because I only have 15 minutes. So I'm gonna power through these. I do apologize. I've just looked at the time. I've got a client call in 15 minutes, so I need to make sure I'm done here. Hi, Scary. Hope you enjoy your trip to UK. I did. It wasn't that weird, actually. But the biggest rules weirdness is the overhanging vehicles which makes it easy for you to maneuver around terrain and stuff, but it's weird, whatever. This is a pick up and go RTT list I've worked on. Allies are to act as screens and my home. Running Spearhead allows the bikes to blast through terrain. I like it. So Jim, let's take a look at Custodes. Blade Champ. Shield Captain. Shield Captain on jet bikes. Nice. Salvo launchers. Good. Battle Line. Guard. Good. Praetors with Hurricanes. I love the Hurricane Bolters on these bikes are 2 damage. It's so silly. 3 Alaris. 4 Wardens. Vigilators. Prosecutors. And then Greyfax, a Priest, a Navigator for the 12-inch denial. So this is a battle. It's a lot of points in allies. Holy crap. So this is a battle with a Chimera. That's the only thing I'd be like, huh, I don't like the Chimera. I would switch that for an Immolator. That's it. Split the Sisters of Battle and get get access to the Ignore Cover. Super important because the Immolator with Ignore Cover shoots at something, and then all of a sudden, all your Custodes weapons become supercharged when they ignore cover. That AP1 means something when you ignore cover, especially with all those Hurricane Bolters. Just saying, worth it, and you can split the systems into 2 units. And if you need points, like I drop I think you can take Prosecutors in 4s as well, right? Can't you take Prosecutors in 4s? If you need to save a few points, you could just drop down a few points there. Other than that, Greyfax is decent, but I would, you know, if anything, I'd try fit in, what's her face? Draxus. I think Draxus is probably just better, especially if you're running the Custodian Guard for the double shoot, and, you know, making them like loan up basically 18, depending on what terrain you're playing on. But just some food for thought. Moving on, Nostal. Nostal says, hey, Scary, just joined today. This was, of course, on Friday, because I did have to delay the show. Been playing Sky Splinter for ages, but I thought I'd finally shift to Wager. Nice. Cabs with good guns and an Archon, Lilith with witches, Drazar and Incubi. Good hammer units in the list. 3 Mandrakes because I play on UKTC, something that I noticed that I really wished I had when I was there. 3 units of Mandrakes because I was going to sacrifice 1 almost every single time, and I wish I would have still had my 2 for mission play. Smart. I also wanted to try Big Brick of Hellions. Not sure if they should be in 2 units of 5 instead. Big Brick of Hellions is okay, especially in Reapers. It's okay. You just have to rapid ingress it, basically. Archon, Conductor Torment. That I don't like. That use the points elsewhere. I rarely use that unless you're running like 0 Harlequins, but then it only lasts for like half a shooting phase, and then you kill something. And then the wager flips back, you know. It is what it is. And then you wasted a pain token. Beastmaster, Drazar, Lilith, Succubus with Arc Raider. Neat. As I said, that's a fun one. Urien, 10 Cabs, Racks, and Witches. Sure. Venom. Yep. Kronos, Big Brick Hellions. Yep. 5 Incubi, Mandrake, Double Talos, and a Void Weaver. Okay, so you do have a Void Weaver. That's another loan up right there. Not bad. So the only thing I would kind of do is fiddle around with what you have here. So the Archon with Conductor can't be in a transport, I don't think, to use it. So you want to make sure that he's on the board. To be honest, because you're only running the 10 Witches, I don't think the Arc Raider Succubus is worth it. So I would drop 60 points here. The Conductor Torment fully. That gives you about 90 points or so. I would definitely do Arc Raider, but on the Archon to be able to sticky a objective with the Cablite Warriors. If you go first, you can scout out, sticky, and move away, right? So that's super important there. And it gives you a couple of points extra where you could potentially put in like a unit of Reaver jet bikes, or what else would I need? Or maybe another Kronos, or something else, right? Maybe another unit of Racks for some extra scoring. And that's kind of where I would kind of try and find the points, mainly to lower the amount of characters you have, put in some more mission play, especially since the Hellions are not going to be on the board most of the time. They're going to be hiding, ready to come out and do some damage, and then you really have to leverage their damage on that key turn to then mop up like the rest with like Drazar, Lilith, you know, sort of thing. But I hope that gives you some food for thought. Other than that, I really like the Double Talos. Yes. It's not bad. Like, I run the Bomber, but if you don't have a Bomber, you don't like the Bomber, Double Talos works great. And then, of course, the Void Weaver. However, you don't have any Scourge or anything like that, so I would highly recommend Haywire on the Void Weaver as well. because then you could really soften up some tanks, and then the Talos can then finish them off to then get their permanently pain token. Yeah. Also, something to note, the Haywire cannon on the Void Weaver is strength 4 Haywire, not strength 3 Haywire, which actually has a big difference in wounding certain things, like some Space Marines. Yeah, especially Gravis Armor Space Marines. It goes from wounding on 6s that only do damage to wounding on 5s, where if they fail to save, they still take 3 damage, right? So, can be really handy. Moving on. I hope that gives you some food for thought. Draza. This is my first attempt at dealing with a list with Lilith in it. Just trying to give myself more flexibility at competing with Horde armies. I have another iteration with a Kronos, but trying to get him built up. Nice. Curious on your thoughts. Drukarli list. 10 cabs, Drazar, 10 Incubi and a Raider. Oh, and the Venom over here. Good. Mandrakes, only 5 Mandrakes. Archon with Webway Walker with Incubi. Interesting choice. I guess a little angry rapid ingress threat. Lilith with a Venom. Ravager, Void Raven Bomber. Void Weaver. Solitaire, Shadowseer. With 1 troop. Yeah, big troop. This, by the way, amazing. This is where I would put my Webway Walker here. This unit is one of the best rapid ingress units in the game. 18-inch loan up, access to advance and charge, and advance and shoot, right? And then, of course, in certain matchups, it just makes the matchups way easier. Like Thunderwolf Cavalry or, you know, anything like that has multiple attack profiles. Like, it's so good. And being able to rapid ingress 18 inches away from stuff that are going to shoot you to then not have that they can't shoot you because you're 18 inches away, and then just get really close and personal and just rush them. Like, it's such a good unit. It's so, so good. But with Deep Strike. With the Infiltrate, the Reaper's Cowl, it's not nearly as good because you have to commit them. And if you don't go first, they're usually in an exposed position and then die. So that's why I like the Webway Walker on that unit more than I do on the Archon. That's why I like the Archon with Arc Raider in Cablites to be able to just move them up, sticking objective. It just makes the Archon a more versatile choice and less of a like has to do damage choice. Whereas the Shadowseer with Deep Strike, definitely a damaging choice. Hey Miles, what's going on? Thanks for coming to hang out. But I hope that gives you some food for thought, Drazar, right? Like, that's where my thought process goes. And then if you can, like, in this case, you would drop, like, if you drop that enhancement to switch it from the Archon, Arc Raider, drop the other 5 Incubi, right? And then put in more Mandrakes. That's the thing, is I feel like you just need another unit of Mandrakes, at least, to be able to have more screens in the back and uppy downy. Now, as for Ravagers, I think in UKTC they wouldn't be too bad because it's long range and stuff like that as well. Paul says, I'm glad I'm alive to come hang out. Depression is struggling with me. Well, Paul, you know, it's the sunshine is always shining behind the clouds, and I'm glad you're here to hang out with us. So, you know, thank you for leaving a comment. It means a lot, and I hope you enjoy the show. So, Guar. I know, sorry I'm firing through these, but I literally have 5 minutes. Guar says, hi, Scary. Hi, everyone. Hello, Guar. It's been some time since I submitted a list. Here with my murder clowns. I know there's room for improvement, and I count on you. me to know the difference. Eldari goes to the webway. Jester. Eldrad for the CP. Makes sense. Shadowseer. Solitaire. Troop Master. Oh my gosh, this is like you're playing Hero Hammer. You know what's really good about all these is it literally feels like Awakened Dynasty because every single character can like come back to life with the CP strat. So good. 10 Storm Guardians for sticky objectives. Troop. Starweaver. Skyweavers. Void Weaver. So, I would honestly just switch all these to Haywire cannons, number 1. Number 2 is I would drop 1 or 2 characters and make sure you have at least 1 big brick of troops with a Shadowseer. I love it. I absolutely love that. And you've got uppy, downy, strat, and stuff like that. Like just try it out. Try it out. Other than that, oh yeah, you do have one big brick. Oh, look at that. I didn't see that big one. Oh yeah, you're fine. Seal of approval. You have sticky objectives. You have Eldrad. The only thing that I think you're missing is like a little bit of long range shooting. But I don't think you absolutely need it. Because you got all the pistols. Like, it's a very aggressive get in your face. You don't, like, you've got decent OC, I guess. Their battle line, bouncing in and out of transports. Like, it's not bad. You know? It's like, it's just a lot of characters. I wish, like, you could just drop characters and bring in more things. I don't think you need that many troop masters. But they're, you know, that's just my initial food for thought, you know? And if you've played any games since then, I'm looking forward to seeing if you've, like, learned anything from that. Like, yeah. Drop some characters, maybe add in warp spiders, you know, just for some, like, fast objective play that's faster than your other stuff. I don't know. I don't know if you can you? Maybe. But thanks for sharing your list. Moving on, Danny. Máscara del Fuego. We've got the Ghosts of the Webway. Oh, interesting. So another Harlequin brick. So Azraman, Shadowseer, Solitaire, Troopmaster, Troopmaster. See, that's, you know, that's a little bit more. I don't think you need Azraman. Then again, we'll see what happens in the data slate, right? Troop, big troop. No, no Shadowseer? Oh yeah, one Shadowseer at least. Oof. I was gonna say, if you didn't have a Shadowseer, that would make me sad. Troop. Starweavers, a Wave Serpent. Interesting. Dire Avenger, Falcon, Rangers, Striking Scorpion, sorry. So I do like the Striking Scorpions. They're good for some initial, like, infiltration play. And a Ranger unit. So I think you could probably switch one of these Scorpions out for, like, something else because you have Rangers, or drop the Rangers and put something else in. The Falcon's an interesting choice. I'm assuming it's because you have Dire Avengers and Azraman, and you just want to be able to, like, go out and, like, kill, I don't know, some infantry effectively, that sort of thing. So hopefully that works out with that. I would I feel like you are missing, like, some of that anti-tank. So the fact that you don't have, like, any Haywire cannons is the biggest thing that, like, pops out at me. There's, like, no Haywire Void Weavers, no Haywire Skyweavers. So, like, that's, if you were to find some, I'd say you need some anti-tank in here that's, like, at range. And that's the only thing that I would say is, like, missing. But I hope that gives you some food for thought. Moving on, we got Zinth. Bit of a departure from normal, starting up a Nakmund Crusade and bringing Drukhari. This is my first pass at 1,000 points. Tactical reserves really throw a monkey wrench into list building. It does, because you have to build your list in like 4 different segments, and then you only get to use 3 of those segments. One of them starts on the board, you bring in 2 more, and then there's one that doesn't get used, but they have to be a certain size, right? It's very interesting. Arc Raider, Beastmaster, Cabalites, good. Venom Raider, good. Kronos, Grotesques, Hellions, Mandrake, Scourge. It's good. Like, this is a great starting list. Because you have Dark Lances and Blasters on the Cabalites and the Raider, I would probably do Haywire on the Scourge. But to be honest, at 1,000 points, I would actually drop the Scourge. And probably put in another Venom, I think. And that would leave you 60 points and something else for 60 points. Which I don't know if you have any points left over. Do you? 99.5, so 65 points. A unit of 3 River Jet Bikes. That's what I would do. Like, in a nutshell. Super quick and super easy. That's kind of what I would kind of switch out for that as well. Scary, finally get to catch you live. A new Patreon. Thank you, Beef Hammer. Appreciate it. And love your content. One of the main reasons I've recently started Drukhari is yourself. Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, no problem, Zinth. I hope that gives you some food for thought. And I know I'm rushing here, but thank you so much for everybody hanging out. Brimstone, last list of the day, says, hello, Mr. Scary. This is my World Eaters list. I like having Angron, but I don't think I'm using him correctly. Any advice? Also, what would you add or remove? Advice is appreciated. So you're using Vessels of Wrath for World Eaters. You have 15 points left. So you're running Angron. I love Angron. He's just good. Lord on Juggernaut with a Chainblade and Arc Slaughterer. Good. Jackals. Good. Berserkers. Decent. lots of movement, right, with them, especially with vessels. Like, if anything, I think you could get away with just one big unit of 10 and one unit of 5. This unit here is one that I'm like, okay, plus 15 points. That's 9. That's 105 points you have, sort of like fighting around. 8 bound, exalted, spawn, annihilator, annihilator. I like destructors personally instead of annihilators, but that's just me. Terminator squad, interesting. 2 Terminators. So what I would probably do here is drop a Berserker brick, and I would honestly add in a Master of Executions. I know they're super expensive, but like having this big Corn Berserker brick fights first is super important, I think, in my opinion. Like, if you were to do that, that's the only real change that I would kind of do. The other option would be, I don't think you need the double annihilator, but that's like an option. Is to try and fit another unit of jackals. Like, the only place I could really see that is sort of dropping maybe a Terminator squad, adding a jackal unit, and then putting in another unit just regular exalted or something. Like, I feel like there's just, or another spawn unit. I feel like you just need a couple more objective point units, right? I like the Lord on Jugger. However, I'd like to see that Master of Executions. That's the only thing. Like, I'm looking at it going, But what I'll do, Brimstone, is we should have our coaching call at some point soon. We'll make sure that we iron something out, and we'll work on that specifically as you get going. Well, folks, I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate all of you. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment down below, share it with your friends, and I will catch you on the flip side. Shout out to the channel Patreons and members, without whom none of this is possible. Links are all down below. Red Dragon sponsoring me. There's a code for 15% off everything on the store. So if you want to order something, that'd mean a lot, and it helps. Helps. It helps. So thank you so much. You're all amazing. I've been Skari, your grateful host. Signing off until next time. Skari out. The dark